Hello and welcome to my show Indus Cuisine, and I'm your chef Basim Akhund. We're back with a new episode from the heart of Pakistan. Today's recipe is very interesting, and this recipe basically comes from the area of Cholistan. Everyone knows that Cholistan is an area in Pakistan which has a lot of desert land, and when I say desert land, it means basically the desert like Sahara Desert. It is occupied by people, by the locals over there. They're also known as Thari people. It's also known as the Tharparkar area, and this recipe has originated from that area. Everyone knows that during the Mughal Empire, when Akbar was born, Humayun, the father of Akbar, was exiled, and Akbar was born in the state of exile in the city of Umarkot, which is in this area, in this desert area. As history says and calls it, that this area was ruled by the Hindu Maharajas, and even today the same family of the Maharaja lives in the same fort in Umarkot. On the other hand, I would like to tell you one more thing, that because the area was Hindu dominated, so people were mostly vegetarian over there. But because Humayun and Akbar were basically living over there, so a lot of recipes which had beef, which had mutton, and which had desi chicken, when I say desi, it means wild chicken, were made during those times, and these recipes became a part of their culture. And during those days, a lot of people converted to the religion Islam also, because obviously there were mosques being built over there. Okay, now what are the ingredients for today's recipe? The recipe's name is Makai Gosht. Now you might be saying, what does Makai mean? Makai means basically corn, and we'll be using corn over here today, around, you could say, 2 cups. This is basically a very big bowl. I've put 2 cups over here in it. On the other hand, we'll be using a kilogram of beef, 2 onions. We shall fry them brown and then convert them into a paste. Then we'll be using some coriander, green chilies, a leaf of bay leaf, then some yogurt, milk, lemon juice. We'll be using clarified butter, which is known as ghee in our language, cumin seeds. We'll be using ginger, garlic, and then salt, red chili powder, turmeric powder, black cardamom, cinnamon sticks, cardamom powder, and cloves. Okay, there are a lot of ingredients for this recipe, but this recipe is going to be delicious. You can have this recipe with naan bread or with boiled rice if you like, and it will be very light on your system. I'm using around half a cup of clarified butter, but remember that half a cup of clarified butter is being distributed within around 5 people, because this recipe will be serving 5 individuals. Okay, so now what do we need? We need the meat first. So what I'll do is I'll keep the corn on this side, I'll put this at the back, and we shall just make pieces of the meat. I'll be making cubes today for this recipe. Why? Because this is how it's done. We call it boti. In English we call it beef cubes. In Urdu we do not call it beef or any other thing, we just call it B-O-T-I, boti. It describes it, it defines it, and that's how we go about it. Okay, now this is done. Spread it out. You can see that the meat is nice and clean today. We shall just make pieces like this, so that we can then make botis out of it. Botis mean pieces of beef, cubed pieces of beef, remember that. Just hold your meat properly, push it down if it's slipping, and then just slowly and gradually go through it. This is done. So the pieces need to be around an inch by inch. Make sure that the pieces are equal, so that every piece is nice and tender. You will not overcook it, please remember that, because if you overcook the meat or if you undercook it, it won't be soft enough to consume. Always remember, you have to wash the meat before you use it. So that's what I usually do. I wash it and then I always put it in a cling wrap. Slowly and gradually, remember to keep each and every size of the piece of the meat same. Why? Because then only it will be perfectly tender. And the meat needs to be tender and juicy, otherwise it will not cook properly and efficiently. The last piece is over here, and we're done. Now what do you need? You need to basically cook it or you could say boil it properly. But remember one thing, when you boil the meat without a pressure cooker, it will take almost 2 hours, and for every 30 minutes you'll have to add more water into it. In the pressure cooker, leave it for 30 to 35 minutes without opening it, and you'll have the perfect texture the beef basically needs to be amalgamated or added to this recipe. It's a very windy afternoon. If you can see some of the plants behind me basically blowing with the wind, and that's why if my hairstyle gets ruined, it's because of Mother Nature, but I'm just joking. Okay, now what I'll do is I shall just pick up this and I'll keep it over here. What we'll do now is I'll rinse my hands once and then I shall transfer everything on the side. Now you have to add around 1.5 liters of water. Remember one more thing, that this water will not be wasted. This is basically also the broth you will be using for the recipe later on. Now what I'll do is I shall transfer all the meat into the pressure cooker. Remember, the pieces of the meat are a little bigger today. Why? Because this recipe requires it to be like that. Now what I'll do is I shall pick up a chopping board, keep it over here, and as you can see, it's completely clean. And then what I'll do is I shall just pick up a piece of garlic, keep it over here, take my knife and just press it like this. Pick up the knife, toss it over here, take some garlic, place it over here, cut it nicely, slowly keep it over here, cut it into 2 pieces and then 4. Why? Because I want the ginger, to be really soft. Then what I'll do is I shall add 1 piece of black cardamom. Then what I'll do is I shall add 3 broken pieces of cinnamon. If you have a complete full cinnamon stick, you can use the whole one. Then what I'll do is I shall add around half a teaspoon of salt, because it's very important. Then I'll just place 2 pieces of cloves into this. This is just the mixture I'm putting for this so that the flavor is nice. And I shall just put a pinch of cumin seeds. Now this is more than enough. Why? Because when the meat will cook and the fat will come out, all of this will give it a nice luxurious flavor. And over here you can see the meat is ready to be boiled. Okay, I keep it over here now. And now what I'll do, I'll pick up the lid, place the whistle properly, place it on top, press it, and voila, here we go. Okay, now this goes on the side. Reduce the heat over here. I'm keeping my stoves on. Why? Because it's very very windy today, and it was so windy that I thought that I couldn't record the show, but I was like, let's go with it. And luckily basically the sandstorm that was approaching has gone now, and we are continuing our show Indus Cuisine for you, and I hope you like this show today and our efforts we've put into it. Okay, now what shall I do? I shall basically pick up a frying pan. I will bring this to heat, and once this comes to heat, I shall add some onion. I'll add 2 onions to this. One should be around, you need them to be medium. This is a little smaller than the medium one, this is a little larger, so you just balance it out. Okay, so now what I'll do is I shall just keep the root on, cut it half, and just make these cuts on it, and we shall just chop the onion. Remember that. Why? I'll tell you later. The chopping can be a little rough. Why? Because you have to eventually convert it into a paste, and that will require the onions to first cook properly and efficiently. Just keep the stove on high heat over here so that you get the pan piping hot till the time when the onions hit it. Okay, so keep the roots on the side, push this over here, easily, smoothly slice it from between, and just make some more cuts. Usually I make around 5 to 6 cuts, but today I'm just making 3 to 4. Why? Because I will eventually add it into the food processor, which will make it super soft. Okay, this is done. Keep it over here and slice it. This is done. The roots go in the dustbin. You will not be using the roots at all. Remember that. Keep it over here. And now what I'll do is I shall pick up the clarified butter, reduce the heat to medium. Why? Because the pan is super hot, and transfer all of this over here. As you can see, the summers are approaching in Islamabad, or actually they're over here already. That's why the clarified butter now is a little thinner as compared to the winters, and the pan was super hot. What I'll do now is I shall just pick up all the onions. Because my knife is a little smaller today again, I shall just scoop it up and transfer them over here. Okay, just pull it over here, slowly and gradually transfer them. And this is done. Add around, you could say, a pinch of salt so that the onions get soft, and cook this on high heat. I will place a lid on top, which is over here, and then let it cook. So till then it's cooking, what we'll do on the other hand is we shall take the garlic and we shall finely shred it for now. I want the garlic to also have a nice texture, remember that. So we shall also place it in the oil and fry it properly. This is done. Pick up all the remaining pieces of the garlic, throw it over here, pick up this, place it over here, and now just transfer all of the garlic into the pan. So now till the time I cook this till it's golden brown, we'll go for a short break, and once we're back, I'll let you know what to do next. Don't go anywhere, keep watching Indus Cuisine. Welcome back. You're watching Indus Cuisine and I'm your chef Basim Akhund. During the break I just waited for you, and as you can see the onions are nicely light brown, and now what I'll do is I shall transfer them over here and convert them into a nice fine paste. For that what I need is basically I need to pick this up. I won't put the stoves off because it's a nice windy evening in Islamabad, and if I reduce the heat, you could say the stoves are going to go off completely, and then it will be a little difficult for lighting them up again. Okay, transfer all of the onions over here. And now we shall process them into a fine paste. I shall keep this over here for a little bit, place it properly on top, interlock it, and then switch it on. The onions are done over here. What I'll do now is I shall transfer all of them into the pan over here. I'll pick up the spatula, and because remember this is just oil, so try sourcing out almost 95% from the jug over here, because if you waste it, your recipe's flavor and taste and color will also change. Keep this at the back. I'm not going to put it in the sink. Why? Because if the jug is damaged, your machine could go to waste if you don't find a substitute for it. Okay, now I'll put this at the back, and now what I'll do is I shall just start mixing it. As you can see that the beef was cooked, so what I did was I took the beef out, it's over here in front of you, and I've kept the remaining water on the other side over here. So now what do we have to do? We have to basically start cooking this recipe on high heat, but the beef will go in later. So what I'll do is I'll first cook all the other ingredients. So the pan is hot. I just reduced the heat. Why? Because I was waiting for the beef to cook partially. First what I'll do is I shall take the green chilies and I shall just slit them. So I'll take around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 green chilies. 2 are red. Remember, these are the same green chilies. They just ripen up if you just take them out later. For this recipe you will just take the stems out first. Remember to wash the green chilies thoroughly. And now pick these up and throw them in the bin. I will just cut the green chili into 2 pieces, and that is about it. These are the same green chilies. They're not fully red chilies. These are not bird eye red chilies. These are the Pakistani form, which was just plucked later. Add them to the oil and fry them. So what I'll do is I shall just tilt the pan like this slightly and bring the green chilies here and just mix them up. Bring all the onion which you processed nicely. Also on the side you can see it's nice and brown. It's almost done. Now we'll start adding all the delicious spices. So firstly what I'll do is I shall add some cumin seeds to the oil so that the cumin seeds start cooking. It's not powder, so the seeds must be added to the oil so that they fry and they release their aroma and flavor nicely. Keep mixing it so that the onion doesn't start burning, remember that. Okay, this is done. Now what I'll do is I shall place some red chili powder in it and some turmeric powder, and I shall mix it up again. You have to mix it up thoroughly, and on high heat what I'll do next is I shall just pick up a ladle and add a little bit of water in this. The water which has basically come from the broth. I'm mixing it up nicely so that the spices cook and they don't burn. That's why I've added a little bit of water. This goes in again. And this is done. Okay, now reduce the heat a little bit. Give this a lid and let it cook. Till this is cooking, what we'll do next is we shall add some ginger into it, but for this I need the ginger to be shredded. So what I'll do now is I shall pick up this side and just push the ginger slowly on the grill. I want the ginger to be a little thick, remember that. And we shall pick this up and place it in the bin. This is done. Shake it up. Why? Because I'll show you over here there's a lot of ginger which needs to come out. So pull it from the grill. It's unlike garlic. Garlic starts falling, ginger doesn't because it has natural strands in it. Okay, it's used from both the sides now. I'll just put it in the sink. Bring your knife, just pass it like this so that it doesn't stick together. Fold it again. And this is done. Pick the lid and transfer all the ginger over here. Scrape it, don't waste any ginger, and slowly transfer it. You can see the masala is ready. Now what I'll do is I shall transfer all the beef. Keep this at the back. Mix it up. And let this cook. Now what I'll do is I'll start adding the corn. The corn goes in. This is how it's made. Everyone knows that Pakistan has a very good crop when it comes to corn. We'll add the cinnamon sticks in this. We'll add a few pieces of black cardamom. Keep the remaining things on the side, whatever you don't need. And we'll add the dhania powder. The dhania powder goes in. Dhania powder means coriander powder in our local language. I use Urdu terms at times so that I can tell you how the ingredients are named in our local language and how do they sound. Let this cook slowly and gradually. Place it nicely. And now what I shall do is I shall add some cloves and a little bit of salt, let's say half a teaspoon. And that is it. Take this at the back. And now we shall add the milk and the yogurt. All of this goes in. Take this at the back and start mixing it slowly and gradually. This is done. We shall add the lemon towards the end. So now what I'll do is I'll give it a lid and I'll let this cook for 10 minutes and then show you the final result. Till the time it's cooking, we'll just clean up and then we'll get ready for the final look for today's recipe. As you can see, today's recipe is ready. I hope you liked today's episode. It was easy, quick, and it was an unusual recipe. Why? Because a lot of people do not know about this recipe in Pakistan, but it is only cooked mostly in the Cholistan, Rajasthan area. I'll see you in another episode of Indus Cuisine. Take care of yourself, lovely people. Bye-bye.